Rocking with your boys, TheCzarr, all rights reserved. Once again, we back at it. You already know how I rock. CommenterNation, the greatest nation since United Nations. You rocking with your boys. Stop playing with me. Hit that like button before we even get it started. You know how I rock. Let's talk about it. Complex. Complex. The more I look into complex, the more complex things get. I don't know if it's by chance. I don't know if it's on purpose. Here's what I'm looking at. Complex. I do know that you had an interview that went on during the release of Ski Mask's album, Stokely. And I was reading back looking at this. Was there a vendetta by Complex against the Florida artistry that was linked to XxxTentacion? Now, some people may be like, why would this be? What would be the purpose of it? To be real with you, I don't know what the purpose of it will be. But the more I look into it, the more I can see what they're talking about, how the interview goes, the type of questions they ask, the way they vibe with people. Do they give an unfair shot to artists such as these Florida artists versus some others that they show favoritism towards? Now, why would they show favoritism? Maybe it's someone at Complex's favorite artist. I've seen some of these same artists get favoritism shown against or towards them due to subjects coming up. Even an interaction in a video where Joe Buttons was calling out one of them that made an unfair review of some sort about them because he stepped up and made a rap song against Drake. Now, why is this a consistent factor? The favoritism, the type of music they do, the type of reviews. This isn't done in a normal way. This is literally done in adversity to who they favor. Is this done normally in the news that does some type of update on artists? Now, XxTentacion called this out. Unlike a lot of other artists, he not only called it out, but he stood on his words. He stood on the fact that they were being biased. And he didn't let them slide on it. He literally made note of it. He said this in an interview. He made sure they knew he felt this way. Why is this important? Because these are all factors that we add into evidence of the truth that he may have been telling. There may have been a darker truth to the fact he was exposing some of these industry companies that work with major backing, with people that are mad giving reviews with biased emotions in favor of artists that they actually support, or let's say they want to support. If they don't, this would be a crucial part of the game. This is a very serious matter because, as we know, objectivity cannot be in someone who's given favoritism. If you're not thinking objective, you're not adding any type of growth or catalyst to an artist's career, giving some type of negative connotations without any justification to it. Now, I do it all the time. This dumbass is going to, excuse me, YouTube guidelines, excuse that. Anyways, the way this works, Complex, did you have some type of biased nature towards any of the artists that were working on their artistry, specifically people linked to XxTentacion, for him to call it out? Was there something in the mix that took away from the growth and the perspective nature of how these artists interacted with their fan base that you gave to other artists and you boosted them credibly because you had someone in the office that liked their music? Instead of looking at their career, looking at the track list they built, looking at overall what they provided to the game that did not get provided to other artists. And as I look through it, I see what they're talking about. You have different people in your office who have favoritism or favor some artist's music catalog that they're willing to down someone else for the greater good of who they love in order to be recognized because they got the Complex name around them and they know this artist is probably going to look at it. Is that something that goes on? I think this is very feasible, and this could easily indicate a trail of some sort towards people who are involved in a certain way, to the downside of taking away the credibility of people who deserved it. And is this a normal feat that occurs in the industry? I think we can say to some extent that it is something that is somewhat of a problem with a lot of different people, not only Complex, but it seems Tentacion exposed the vendetta in a darker viewpoint and perspective of Complex writers in the way he was dictating what he did not like. Shout to the commenter, please drop that link below. Please do that. And if I'm not mistaken, shout to Nikki. Please drop that below and allow other people to read and hear the interview that happened with Ski Mask, Tentacion involved. It even has Drake's name on it, and another artist that is known to be in the southern area that are part of the industry that have made music for a while here. Now, do you think there was a lack of equality and that some of these artists didn't get a fair shake to stand in the game, to go against the test of time? Some of them may have even been put in the hot seat in an industrial way because they spoke against these companies that consistently give unfair shakes in the industry, because we know that this is the type of support that helps an album to flourish, that helps it to be spread out to many people, that prevents them from being held against their will to a certain limit when they're able to be limitless and get the fair shake at being a growth to the population and the characteristics that you all are able to be around. See, and that's what I'm saying. Was it that Tentacion was calling out a lot of industry cats, industry related people, people that were doing things that were against the norm and not being fair in their judgment of the quality of music, the release of music? New York Times was addressed yesterday. Now Complex addressed today. And the thing is, I read some of the reviews. Some people are getting credit when I honestly feel they didn't deserve it on their album or anything they created or brought to the platform. It's the same thing as if someone was about to say, oh, Czar, he makes content. He actually talks about different things, but it's the same thing. Well, I see a lot of artists that talk about nothing, that bring nothing to the game. When your video's done, it's one and done. And if it's looked at for other reasons, not because you talk about something related to what people want to hear, but it's just looked at to be looked at because you post your name on there and they see what actually is happening. Not that they're going to learn something from it, not that they're going to get educated or progress from it or get some type of understanding in a higher way. That's my point. There's all a point and viewpoint to what's being told in it. And that's my thing. A lot of artists don't get this fair shake. And he called it out with Complex. See, Complex, the more I look into what you do, the more I look into what you're talking about and the things you say, the more it makes what he talked about credible. The more is added to the situation to make me say to myself, what actually have you guys done to help artists progress other than the negativity that you gave? And if you gave something positive, it was to specific artists that didn't even need your credibility or backing. And that's just the honest truth. Some of these artists didn't need you because they had a large majority of major industries backing them, by which you were just a side piece. You weren't the main course. But anyway, you chose and you accepted that just to be known as the people who were going to say, oh, how amazing are you guys? Oh, how great is this artist? Oh, how out of this world he is. Just like you're sucking up. I read your reviews and you sucked up to a lot of these artists. You didn't give them the clarity like, look, this song was good. This song was good. This song could have been better. I've heard better here. You didn't do that for everyone. Most people, you're like, oh, look, he does it again. Oh, look at him on the rise once again. Like you did that type of thing. Not a verbatim thing, but that's just the ideology behind some of the reviews I've seen written by people there. And again, I'm not calling names out because everybody writes different. Everybody has different viewpoints. But was he credible in saying that you guys did this very often? You very rarely gave people the fair shake they deserve. Very rarely did you add to anyone's career to help them progress. Very rarely were you an asset to any other artist other than the ones you favored above others. Is this true? Do you believe it? Nikki post that. Let everybody make their judgment. Let me know what you guys think. You know how I rock. All rights reserved.